Hello, everyone. I am Matt Williamson, and your Steelers win another. Rebound nicely against the Browns. Again, that Thursday night short week didn't bother me as much as it bothers others, but it was great to get that taste out of your mouth by winning 2 division games right after. And now you're in really good shape. The Bills just lost a second ago. I'm recording this after those games before the night game. Hopefully the Chiefs lose, but don't love the chances of that. Steelers are in really good shape within the division as well as in the conference, and they're playing well, and they're quite healthy, and there's a lot good going on. Win this game despite Pickens being out, which came as a bit of a surprise, and we'll get to that here in a minute. As we usually do, I'm going to talk about the halftime stats, the final stats, and then I got all sorts of observations for you. So this game was 13-7 at the half. Didn't start great. I mean, it was a slog for the beginning of this game, pretty much on both sides of the ball, but Steeler offense was struggling, and I thought the lack of Pickens was obvious at that point. I mean, Wilson had completed 50% of his pass going into halftime, 8 for 16, but only 46 yards. He did have 4 carries for 19. Some of those were short, but he did run a little bit more in this game. Winston was 8 for 19 for 91, a touchdown and a pick. He also had a carry for 11 yards. We'll get to him more too. 12 carries combined in the first half for Najee and Warren for 59 yards. A lot of these numbers are remarkably similar. Steelers had 8 drives. Browns had 7. 33 plays each. 7 first downs versus 8 for the Browns. Third down, 2 out of 8, 2 out of 7 for Cleveland. Yards, 127 to 124. Yards per play, exactly the same. 3-8 versus 3-8. Penalties, 4 for 41, 3 for 26. These are like mirror images. But turnovers, Steelers had 0. The Browns had 1. And as you know, I count a missed field goal as a turnover as well. So you're -2 at that point if you're the Browns. And that led to some time of possession stuff for the Steelers. They were at 16:03 versus 13:57. And it looked as though, again, on first blush, that the Browns were playing a lot more man, but they're a heavy man team anyways, but really were not afraid of the other receivers. With Pickens out of the game, can be very aggressive with your coverage schemes. And as you know, the game ended up 27-14. Wilson, 15 of 26 for 158, 2 touches, no interceptions. No turnovers is key here, though. And I know those numbers don't blow you away like last week. But he did a lot of good things, played smart, threw touchdown passes. You know my thing with that. Winston, on the other hand, was 24 of 41, 211, 2 touches, fine. And he made a lot of plays with his legs, but 2 interceptions. And Winston keeps getting better and better at extending plays, and he's been a problem these past 2 games to get on the ground. They threw 13 passes to Njoku, only caught 7 of them, though, for 42 yards, but a touchdown. Cam Hayward had 2 sacks in this game. First downs, Cleveland had 20 versus only 15 for the Steelers. They ran 69 plays as opposed to 62 for the Steelers. This is a huge key. There's a couple huge keys here. Third down, Steelers were 6 of 14. Respectable. Browns were only 2 of 13. Huge. Fourth downs. Steelers didn't go for any, but the Browns converted 3 out of 4, but that one you don't still counts as an interception. Yards, Browns were exactly at 300, Steelers at 267. Just like the first half, identical yards per play, 4.3 for each. Rushing. The Browns did a little better on the ground than I expected, 104. Steelers were at 120, but the Steelers only averaged 3.4 yards per carry. Again, those numbers need to come up. I mean, that's one of my biggest concerns, if not the biggest concern about this team big picture right now, is they need more efficiency running the football. They have the volume, but they're not having the efficiency. Penalties really hurt the Browns, 9 for 81. Some of which were because they're getting outplayed or held or pre-snap stuff, but there was a lot of self-inflicted wounds here by Cleveland. Steelers had 6 for 61 in the penalty department. In the end, the Steelers only turned the ball over once. The Browns turned it over 3 times, but 2 missed field goals and a missed fourth down. So the reality is the Steelers won the turnover battle 6-1. Another crazy one is both these teams ended with exactly 30 minutes of time of possession. So there was some evenness to this game, but the mistakes were huge. The inability to convert on third downs for the Browns was huge. And to me, that's really the difference. And I did think the Steelers defense was clearly the best unit on the field. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA, head to BetOnline today to get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. As talked about, a lot of Browns mistakes. And I'm not saying the game wouldn't have still been in the Steelers' favor or in their control, but you missed 2 field goals early like Cleveland did. That just really kills the flow of the game. You know, you're moving the football, you're doing some good things. Kicker kills you again. I mean, it's just deflating, especially how rotten the season's gone for the Browns. So that's how that goes. As mentioned, that 6-1 turnover differential is basically the difference in the game, mixed with third down conversion, inability for the Browns. I thought those were the 2 biggest keys. Steelers offense went 3 and out on 4 of their first 5 possessions. I mean, it was a slog. But the third quarter, Wilson was 6 of 8 for 91 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then you take a 20-point lead. I mean, start to figure things out. That's something that this team is doing consistently. They're really good in the second quarter. They've been really good at figuring things out throughout the course of the game. Not having Pickens in there, I thought, was massive. And I said this before the game. I think it was the right call if you were on the fence, because you have to start thinking big picture, and you need him for this upcoming stretch run and or playoffs. And if he's out there running routes and tears it or aggravates it, that would be a much bigger problem. And coaches will never tell you these things, but going into the game, you at least have to say, we could probably still win this one without George. But the lack of somebody else is still pretty apparent on this team. In his place, the Steelers used a 2-man rotation of Scotty Miller and Mike Williams, while Van Jefferson rotated out less often than usual. Miller was typically on the field for run situations, and him and Williams basically split the pass play situations. That was a lot of Scotty Miller for my taste, but I like the player, but that was a lot of Scotty Miller for my taste. I am interested to see how many routes were run, what the snaps are for all these receivers. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But we've really seen these last 2 and now 3 games more and more Freiermuth. I really think him and Wilson are starting to jive, and he's getting a lot more run in all situations, which was disheartening early in the season and doesn't quite explain that away, but at least it's coming around now. I like that quite a bit. I thought Warren was great. A decent game by Najee. Nothing bad, but I mean, Warren's a better player. I mean, I really believe that. I've thought that for 2 years now. But they had over 90 rushing yards combined. Warren chipped in more as a receiver as well. But Harris averaged 3.3 a carry. Warren averaged 5.2. And just looked better doing it. I thought the offense did an exceptional job of neutralizing Myles Garrett. He still made some plays. He still had an impact. But he didn't dominate. He didn't take over. Ball came out a lot quicker. We'll talk about that here too. I mean, I actually will figure that out down the road. But Wilson was very crisp at getting the ball out of his hands. They knew they had a Garrett problem. They weren't going to let that, ruin the game. Nice work. If you remember in the first game, the tackle for loss differential was 11-1 in the Browns' favor. Now, coming into this game, I thought the Steelers would win that dramatically. They won at 7 tackles for loss versus 6 for the Browns. 2 by Highsmith, though, 2 by Hayward. No one else in this game had more than 1. Back to Winston. He moves around really well now. I mean, he is hard to sack. He feels the rush. There are some aspects of his game that keep getting better, and that's one of them. Throwing on the move, all those things. He's hard to play against, except he inevitably throws you a couple. I thought Watt, while he didn't show up massively in the box score, was really good against the run, secured that side of the field quite well. And Highsmith pretty much whipped up on Bonifetti, most passing situations. Definitely got the better of that. That was great to see. D-line in general was pretty strong. As mentioned, there's, 2 sacks for Cam Hayward. Landon Roberts, though. I mean, you talk about a guy setting the tone for the defense, flying around, running through people. Easy guy to love. Perfect Steeler, really. But I will say the Browns ran the football and were a little more balanced than I would have expected coming in this game. So that doesn't cause a huge red flag for me. I'm sure there was a lot of lighter boxes in those instances, and the Browns receivers, namely Judy, didn't destroy you, which is good. Some special teams note, I thought Waitman had a really good game. He had some boomers. Another phenomenal special teams play by Skoranek. And maybe he's just lucky that people have a hard time fielding punts when he's screaming down on him. But boy, he's screaming down on him and definitely affects that, in my opinion. But Ford did have a big kickoff return. That was a little concerning as well. One thing I had a little bit of a problem with, and this has been a little bit of a theme, it's nitpicking, but I do think the Steelers / Tomlin have gotten a little too conservative, a little too early when they get a couple big leads. I thought the same thing was true with Cincinnati. Now you get both wins. So again, I'm nitpicking, and obviously you don't mind trading yardage for time off the clock. But I just thought it was a little early to just allow completion, run the ball 3 times and do the football. Like a little more aggression with, 8 minutes on the clock, 7 minutes on the clock. Midway through the 4th quarter would have been fine by me. A couple other things here. Again, take this with a grain of salt, but I think it's worth noting. Pro Football Focus put out their 3 highest graded players. Jordan Hicks, the linebacker for the Browns, good player. He was definitely impactful, had a 90.6 grade. Roberts had a 90.5 grade. Keanu Benton, who did more than just make the tremendous interception. He influenced the game quite a bit too. He was at 90.3. And then they gave out a players of the game. They gave it to Landon Roberts for his run defense. He made 2 stops in the ground game, including 1 massive 4th down tackle for loss. He also didn't allow any catches on 13 coverage snaps, which I didn't realize, but great. Okay. A couple other numbers here. Average yards per drive. The Browns averaged 23.1. The Steelers were only at 18.1. But average points per drive, the Browns were at 1.1. The Steelers were at 1.9. And then some red zone stuff here. The Browns had 4 red zone possessions, only ran 6 plays in the red zone, but did have 1 touchdown. The Steelers had 1 more red zone possession. They had 5, but ran 10 more plays, 16, had 3 red zone touchdowns and a field goal. All right, I'll take it, As I'm sure you know, but certainly worth reiterating, the Steelers have now won 21 straight regular season home games against the Browns, the longest active streak in the NFL by any team versus any opponent, and the 2nd longest streak in NFL history. And yes, I mentioned this earlier, but I just wanted to make sure that I got it correct. As I mentioned, the ball came out of Wilson's hands quick and crisp. His average time to throw in this game was 2.64 seconds. Really quick. And for him, that's like grease lightning compared to his career. I mean, he's been more of a hold the ball type guy, but he's reinventing himself a little bit, especially his past 2 weeks of getting the football out of his hands very quickly. but that was his quickest of the season. And on what they call quick attempts, which is 2.5 seconds or less, he was 10 of 14 for 97 yards and a touchdown. So really playing in rhythm, quick, get it out. Don't let Garrett screw things up. Team effort of dealing with the Garrett problem, obviously. So good stuff. Everyone should be in good spirits. Spread the word. Check out this pod and tell your friends. Follow me on Twitter @WilliamsonNFL. Over and out.